Hey everybody, listen up. I got mega huge news. Meat Eater Live is heading back out on the road. That's right. Join me and the crew. Clay Newcomb, Cal, Yanni, Spencer's going to be there. Phil the Engineer's going to be there. Meat Eater Live headed back out. Now, when you get every ticket, okay, every ticket you buy, you get a signed copy of our new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook. This tour is celebrating the release of the book. Buy a ticket, get a signed copy, Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire, which I'll point out is a $38 value. Here's where we're going to go. April 23rd, the Mesa Arts Center in Mesa, Arizona. April 24, the Balboa Theater in San Diego. April 25, the Grove in Anaheim, California. April 27, the Crest Theater in Sacramento. April 29, the Union in Salt Lake City. April 30, the Egyptian in Boise. May 1, the Wilma Theater in Missoula. May 2, the Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane, Washington. May 4, Revolution Hall in Portland, Oregon. And May 5, the last day of the tour, Pantages Theater in Tacoma, Washington. For tickets and more information, visit the events page at themeateater.com. Hope to see you at the show.
The Sportsman's Nation Podcast Network is brought to you by onX Hunt. Bringing you the best GPS mapping software directly to your smartphone or desktop, onX offers you the ability to see property boundaries, mark waypoints, track your location, and so much more. Visit onxmaps.com or you can download it directly from your app store today. Save 20% off of your purchase by using the code NATION20 at checkout. That's capital N Nation followed by the number 20.
My name is Clay Newcomb, and I'm the host of the Bear Hunting Magazine podcast. I'll also be your host into the world of hunting the icon of North American wilderness, the bear. We'll talk about tactics, gear, conservation, but we'll also bring you into some of the wildest country on the planet chasing bear. This week, we are out in western North Carolina. And again, we're with Mr. Roy Clark, but this time he's got two of his good hunting buddies, Ira Jones and Ronnie Bateman. And we're talking about hound hunting in the Appalachians for bear with hounds. We get into a lot about hound breeding. We also talk about some of the trends that these guys are seeing in the hound world. But we also talk about the relationships built and how they couldn't have done what they had done if it hadn't been for the strong relationships and alliances that they've built together inside of breeding bear dogs. Super great conversation. We also, at the very end, we talked to Mr. Gerald Jones, Ira's father, who's soon to be 80 years old, and he talks about the good old days of bear hunting with hounds back before they had GPS, back before they had any technology at all to support them. This is a rich podcast. You're going to enjoy this conversation. I want to talk about our buddies at the Western Bear Foundation. This is a nonprofit hunting conservation organization representing the bear hunters out west. Great organization, funded by memberships. Check out our good buddies at the Western Bear Foundation. And you know that we've been doing the giveaways with DU Hunting Supply. DU Hunting Supply is a full service. These guys have everything when it comes to hound supplies, from Garmin products to leashes and collars to anything and everything that you would need. Give DU Hound Supply a look for everything that you need with any kind of sporting dog equipment. We're continuing on one more week with the DU Hound Supply giveaway. To be entered into the contest, leave a review on iTunes about our podcast, rate us, take a screen clip, send it to Instagram, Facebook, or info@bear-hunting.com to be entered into the contest, and we will send out a gift card and a t-shirt to one of you. The people that have already submitted are still in the contest as well. Thanks, and enjoy this podcast out in western North Carolina. For anybody that cares about bear dogs, what I'm seeing is an incredible scene. We're in the Smoky Mountains. It's drizzling rain. The tops of the mountains are covered in fog, and you can hear the baying of probably 25 hounds. We look up the mountain through a beautiful green lawn, up through this little hollow, and you see what many mountain bear hunters have seen for their entire lives, and that is a pack of bear dogs, young and old and pups and old retired dogs and dogs that are in their prime and young dogs that have yet to even be hunted. That's what it takes to have a pack of bear dogs, is you got to have a lot. And I'm with Ira Jones and Roy Clark as they just stroll through, feeding and watering the dogs and talking about everyone.
And if somebody decided they didn't need them, and I don't argue with that, and I'll show you my favorite color. Well, my favorite color is similar to this female right here, or that dog right there.
What would you call that?
Roy described it best, and the more I look at it, I like them. They're a black dog at 10 yards, but you get right up to them, you start seeing that brindle streak in them.
Right.
But if you're looking at any distance, say just cold black.
Yeah.
That's like him. You got to get at least where we're at here to start seeing that brindle on. But at any distance, say, look,
Is
I
that
really
what
like
y'all are
that
shooting
color.
for?
Nah, no, but it's pretty color.
It's just what you get. It's just what you got a lot of.
Yeah.
I mean, are these buckskin dogs Plotts? Are they really?
Here, you can register them out of him now.
I can register them now. Yeah, you what? Up until this year, you couldn't register a buckskin, so he wasn't. But
Is that right? Yeah. I mean, that dog is as
he's
colored
a
like a yellow lab.
buckskin. He's a buckskin. Yeah, I've got one up yonder too. I
beautiful.
get a few along,
Bruno and
but now a lot of people don't like them. I don't know. I can't tell no
How's
difference
that
in
dog as a bear dog?
He was good. He was. We used him a lot. I tell
is he
you,
older?
Yeah, well, he's like Hooker. They're about 9 going on 10.
Oh, really? That's Hooker's litter mate.
Yeah.
Wow. And Hooker was one of your top dogs.
Hooker's the one in that first house,
Yeah.
He's as good as anybody, as Hooker is. And he was good. I tell you, he had a lot of grit. He got hurt a lot.
You look good in that headset, Mr.
I
Roy.
like it. I do, too. I like it so good. I won't get no picture of it.
Yeah. There you go. Now you look like a pilot.
Now,
Yeah.
All right. We didn't even know how to wire them, really.
Am I the pilot or you the co-pilot?
I'll be the co-pilot. You just head through yonder.
Here we go.
So we are in Silva, North Carolina?
Yeah, pretty much.
Silva proper?
Yeah.
Outside of it a little bit?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
We're actually on Barker's Creek.
That
Barker's Creek.
Yeah.
North Carolina.
That's it. Barker's Creek, North Carolina.
Western North Carolina.
Right.
How far are we from the Tennessee line?
Well, according to which way you go and the way the crow flies, probably 30 miles Newfound Gap.
30 miles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about road travel now. Not so much the way the crow flies, but it's not all that miserable far. Just like Roy told you earlier, you and him drove basically around the park to get here.
Right.
Park's a big place.
Yeah.
And
Smoky Mountain National Park.
Yeah, that's right. So
Yeah.
you drove a whole lot to get here.
Yes, we did.
Just circling, this outskirts of
And
it.
we probably didn't circle over a third of it.
A third of it, that's right. It
Yeah.
goes way down in below Robbinsville
Yeah.
into Tennessee down there, and that going toward, what is that, Ronnie Sweetwater country down that way?
Murrayville down in there.
Murrayville, yeah. It's
Well, let me introduce who I'm with today. We are at Gerald Jones' house.
Correct.
We're with Ira Jones. I've got Ira Jones at 2 o'clock, and I've got Mr. Roy Clark at 12 o'clock sitting directly in front of me. And then we've got Ronnie Bateman over here at about 11:30. And then we've got Mr. Gerald Jones. And then I've got Shepard Newcomb right here to my right as well. And I told these guys I wanted to drive out here and talk about bear hunting in the Appalachian Mountains. I figure you boys are about as good as any to tell me about it. Would you guys agree?
we've done a lot of hunting, that's for sure. We've done our share of hunting. I agree with that. Our wives would tell you that too, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, we've put our dues in,
Yeah. How long have you three been hunting together?
20 years, Ronnie, something about like that, 15, 20, something. What do you think?
Something like that. I've known Roy. I've known Ira before I hunted with him, but I've known Roy probably 22, 25 years.
Yeah.
Something like that. It might be a little longer than that because I was trying to figure that up a while back, and I could never. We don't know exactly.
Yeah.
I guess we knowed each other before I brought Rello here
Oh yeah,
fishing and stuff.
yeah. That was after I'd moved from Topton to Nantahala.
Yeah.
Before we done that?
Yeah.
So the way that I know you guys, and you guys can define your relationship better, is that you guys are all Plott men, and have done some dog breeding together.
Mm-hmm.
So you've all got lots of bear dogs, and have done some breeding together. Now, Ira, your father got started hunting back in the 50s.
Yeah, that's
And
correct.
Tell me a little of his history.
Well, he grew up right down the road here, probably about a mile, and we've always been here on the creek, I guess you might say.
Mm-hmm.
And his dad hunted, and he had Plott dogs and other dogs as well back before the registry. And what I mean by that, before they registered the Plott
Which
dog.
would have been 1948, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that when the
Yeah,
UKC
yeah.
recognized the Plott hound?
Mm-hmm. And they fooled with a lot of dogs he did coming into it that were just brindle of color. And before the registry, it wasn't that big a deal, I guess,
Right.
how pure they was. And, and then that become the goal. But Dad got in it and took off. I'm sure he'd tell you the same thing. He kind of grew up around dogs and hunting and all. And I was fortunate enough to get to racing in it as well. And we go back. I think the first two registered dogs we had was in 63 and 65. I actually still have their papers in here in the bedroom where we keep our hunting papers. And we just wanted to keep those and did. And, those dogs come from over in Haywood County off the Plott family. And one of them come from down in Statesville, North Carolina, a fellow down there by the name of Tom White. He had the Yadkin Valley bloodline, and my grandpa was down there working, and he picked that female up down there when she was a pup. Yeah. And that kind of kicked him off in the Plott dogs. And then Charles Gant was a common denominator with Dad and Roy. And I remember going to Mr. Gant's in the 70s. We kept papers on dogs in here that we picked up or he picked up. I was born in 61. We got papers going back around 70 to Charles's. And, we visited over there and, and heard a lot about Roy. I find this really interesting, and I love to tell Roy about it, and I don't know, I'd hear a lot about Roy, but I never had the privilege to meet him, and I knew he had good dogs, and kind of the way I've always been, and I don't know if I'll tell this or not, but if there's a good hunter out there, I kind of want in on it.
Yeah.
And I consider both these men good hunters, and they're good breeders, and I need in on it. If there's something good going on, I want in on it. Me and Ronnie were good friends. We knew each other. We've hunted together or around each other probably our whole hunting life. Yeah. And in the later years, we kind of got together and hunted and had a wonderful time, but we hunted together, had a lot of respect for him then, and I knew what he was doing, and he actually hooked me up with Roy. Okay. And the first time I went over at Roy's, there's snow on the ground. I never will forget that, and got just a wonderful visit, and got to meet him and his wife, and, I knew right
When
then.
would that have been, you think, in the 80s?
Yeah, let's see, or 2010. It's probably in the late 80s, around the 90s, about 20, maybe 15, 20, right in there. May have been more around, let's see here, may have been more around 2000, something like that I got hooked up with Roy. And, we've done some things since and bred some. And you've done the article here recently on those two dogs, both those dogs he let us have. I found it interesting, the Harvey dog and the Max dog. I can show you their papers. They go back just a little bit into the Blue Ridge stuff that S.L. Edwards, I think, had. And they go back to what my dad and my grandpa had. And that's on paper. We can trace that back that far. I love the papers about that. We kind of see where they go to. And I like those dogs. They were good dogs. I lost both of them. And They were Roy was with me when I lost Harvey, and then Ronnie was with me when we lost Max.
Yeah.
And you know, they were good dogs too.
Ira, you said something to me one time. You said that back when you were a kid, to be a bear hunter in this part of the world was really a term of notoriety. It described that to me.
Well, let me say this first. I was raised by a bear hunter, so that's who we were.
May have
around.
been biased.
It might have been a little biased in that. But in these mountains, and I truly believe this. Of all the hunters, a lot of good people, a lot of good hunters. A lot of people never win a bear hunt. Don't make them bad people. But the bear hunting was a big deal. It's always been a big deal here in Southern Appalachian. And, whether you're in Tennessee, North Carolina, North Georgia, South Carolina, Virginia, I mean, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And those people that were good at it, those of us that was wanting to be good at it, we looked up to them.
Yeah.
And they were a lot of good hunters. These mountains full of good hunters. They don't all hunt Plotts. That's our choice.
Yeah.
That's our preferred choice. But as far as they've been a lot of good hunters in these mountains down through the ages. And we Dad and I and an old family friend, Orville Nations, he's gone on now. He's passed away. And we done a lot through the 70s, after I got up 10 years old. And so they just done a lot of visiting. We'd go places, visit with different people, some of the Plott family, the Charles Gant, over there many times, and different folks, and and that was interesting to me. It really was.
So as a young man, y'all would just travel around and go sit
within
on people's front porch and talk to them.
Yeah, I wouldn't take nothing for those times. So those I think even in I mentioned this to you before. Don't overlook how much time you spend with somebody that knows what they're doing, and those porch times was valuable. And not that I remember everything said or even agree with everything.
You probably use a lot more of that than you realize today. Even stuff you don't consciously remember.
Yeah.
There's a level of we used this word in the podcast a few weeks ago, impartation. Sometimes you just catch something from somebody that it's even hard to articulate. Or you catch an appreciation for something, and probably what you saw in those guys was just a deep appreciation for the dogs and for the hunting.
Right.
And
I wanted to be a bear hunter, that's for sure. I don't know if I ever accomplished it or not. I've been on a lot of hunts, but I wanted to be one anyway. I was challenged one time by a gentleman, and I really liked this. And he explained why he said what he said. He told me, he said there's a lot of people can breed dogs. He said there's people out there that's into that, and we're talking about any color. And he said there's some good hunters out there too. He said there's some folks out there that kill a lot of game, and he said they don't really breed a lot. They depend more on what they can get from other people or buy or whatever, but they're deadly in the woods. And he said there's not been a lot of people has been able to do both, be able to really breed and be successful there and hunt. And I guess pondered on that a whole lot. I've never forgot that.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of been a challenge to me. And and that's why I try to associate with, like I told you in the kitchen a while ago, I guess out of everybody here today, I'm probably blessed more than anybody. I grew up in it. Not that these guys didn't. They did as well. Both of them did. I know them. And I know their story and all, but just to have some of the friends and be accepted in these groups, I count it, as an honor.
Yeah.
And and try to contribute what I can.
Yeah.
And all, but it's you want to associate with good people in this sport. I did anyway. I mean, that's what I wanted to do.
Do you guys, with what he just said, does that ring true with you? That there's some people that are good dog breeders, and some people that are really great hunters. But to get both of those things is pretty difficult.
Yeah, I'd say that's right. I'd say it's partly right, but then there's some that bear hunts that never learns what a dog's doing,
They never learn either one?
Well, sorta.
They're bear killers. They're not.
Yeah.
That's what they are. They're killers. They're not hunters. I think there's a difference.
Yeah.
Some people, they just want to kill the bear. They don't care what the dogs is doing. Most of them wouldn't care if they did shoot a dog or two along. But no, the dogs is more important to us than the killing the bear.
Yeah.
And some people are killers, some people are hunters.
Yeah.
And even some that's got dogs that I know some that's hunted their whole life and they still don't know a whole lot about it. They don't learn. When a dog knows more than you do, then you ain't learned a lot. That's what I think.
You got a real smart dog one.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. I like that.
Yeah. Ira, what do you think it takes to, I've been trying to pry out of Mr. Roy today just some of his knowledge about breeding dogs, because I think for sure Mr. Roy's a good dog breeder.
Absolutely.
I know that you're a good dog breeder.
Well,
What if you could distill down your dog breeding philosophy into just a concise, paragraph? What would you say?
I don't know if I can do it in a paragraph or not. I don't even know if
or
I can
longer.
do it. But no,
If you were starting from scratch with somebody that didn't know anything about bear dogs, I mean, because I'll tell you what I've learned. You guys are starting with families of dogs. They're not just picking dogs from all over the country, random dog because they think it looks pretty and wants. I mean, you're sticking with these tight family lines of dogs that have generations of dogs that are doing what you want done.
and I think that's a big part of it right there.
Yeah.
Is I had a fellow tell me one time, and I love this thought right here. He said, and don't miss this. This is a pretty deep thought. He said breeding really wasn't that complicated, but he said the problem was a lot of people just didn't have nothing to breed. 0 to 0 equals. And I don't, I don't mean that to offend anybody, but I think to breed, your better odds of having a dog that'll do decent for you is if it's bred to do that. I mean, if you truly have generations of bear dogs poured into a dog, I like my chances better.
Yeah.
Now, I know that there's people out there that go other routes. A lot of times they'll look for a dog that's maybe didn't quite make it in the coon dog world, and they make great bear dogs, and they have no history of bear dog behind them. I've noted that dog. That's a common dog. You'll see a lot of that, but I think when you get into breeding and you want results, and it's all about percentages when you get into breeding. Anybody can put a dog on a female, but what you're looking at is the end result. Are they a trainable dog? I mean, they don't all make great dogs. We're always wanting a better dog.
Right.
Everybody here in the room would like to have a better dog than whatever they got, or a better one than the best than they ever had. And that's what every hunter should strive for. But, you look at your percentages. I had a gentleman tell me one time, and lives in the area breeding, and he asked me what her percentages was, and
percentage of a dog that's gonna make it to your qualification.
Well,
of
make
bear
it into a decent dog,
just a huntable dog.
A usable hound.
Yeah.
And maybe he was talking a little more in terms of a great dog. He said he was hitting about 1 out of 40, and I thought, man, that ain't good at all. I mean, if I had to raise 40 pups to get one that I really,
Right.
now maybe a great hound. Well, that may be good odds. I don't know. If you're looking at maybe a great super dog that just done everything. But I like her percentages of dogs that start.
Yeah.
We don't have to go through a lot of dogs. Some of them don't make it. Some of them, but they give you something to work with.
I think that's interesting to think about, is that as good a dogs as you guys have, there are still some that don't make. I think that's fascinating from a breeding perspective. Number one, it indicates a high standard. Not just that you guys would have, but that if you're putting a dog on a big game animal, which a black bear is the toughest, arguably, but I think most people would agree, the toughest big game animal in North America to tree with a hound. Would you guys say that most people would believe that?
I would think so. Yeah.
I mean, harder than a mountain lion, and there's dry ground. There's variables, but so even with top-notch strains of bear dogs, you're going to have a litter of 10 pups, and you're hoping that 7 of those pups, I don't know, would turn out to be dogs that you hunt for their whole life because they're good enough to ride in your truck and contribute to the pack.
We hit some numbers like that. At times they don't all now. I mean, that ain't consistent. Right. I tell you something I heard one time, and I love this. I was thinking today, I didn't have any idea what we might talk about and how the conversation would go, and I just kind of reminiscing in my mind. And we were hunting in Hyde County. It's been some time ago. It's probably 20, 25 years ago, and I might be a little off on that, but it's been quite a while. And they used to have a North Carolina State University would take a vet clinic down there. Now, they would take their students down there. This is a good story. Give me a minute here. And they would take these graduate vets. It was fixing to graduate, and they would they would be in that area, you know, for opening weeks. There's a lot of big bars down there. Some dogs get beat up a little long, cut up, and whatever. And it gives those vets some opportunity and that they didn't get in the classroom. Right. And they done it very cheap. It was good work, and they done it very cheap. Well, we took advantage of that if we had anything that needed a little attention. So, but we were down there this particular year, and they were some military vets down there. And I happened to have a dog that needed some attention, and one of these military vets worked on my dog in that clinic. And he was really interested in what we was doing, you know, and so, began to tell him a little bit about it. And he asked me, he said, "Do you care if I take along tomorrow?" And I said, "I don't mind at all." And I checked with some of the other guys, and everybody was fine with it. So we let this gentleman go and had a good hunt with him. And he participated, just fell right in there, and just a big part of things. But I got acquainted with him, and we kind of stayed in contact after that. And my mind went to working, on this. And I said, "You're a military vet. What do you do?" He said, "I work with dogs." He said, "That's what I do." And he said these bomb dogs and stuff of that nature right there, he said they're very valuable to the troops. And he said, and this is about that Desert Storm area or part of, of time and all that was going on over in that part of the world. And he said these dogs, he said that we deal with, he said they're trained to go in, sniff out these bombs and so on and so forth. And boy, my mind went to really racing then. And I asked him, I said, "Well, what do y'all use?" And he said, "Well, we use German Shepherds mostly." He said the vast majority of what we use is a German Shepherd. So I asked him the next question. I said, "Well, do you raise your dogs, or how do you get these dogs?" He said, "We do both." I mean, he was very quick in his answers. He said, "We do both." He said, we go to Germany. Actually, he said, "Nobody does it like the Germans." And he said, we'll send people over there, and they'll buy dogs, green dogs from these kennels. And he said, then we raise some. And I asked him, I said, "Okay," I said, "what's the percentages of what you raise that actually make it?" A pretty quick answer. He said, "Pretty close to 10%.
10%.
And I said, "Okay, what about what you buy, what you go buy that's green at a year old?" And now they know some skill, they know some commands, but they're not trained. And he said, "Well, it goes up a little, about 30%. But that's the raisin's done and over. You're going in at a year old picking the best of the bunch. You're looking at the litter at a year old, not at 6 weeks old." But I began to ponder on that, and I thought, well, look, 30% is better than 10%. And I can't believe that only 10% of what you're doing is working. And then he began to explain to me, he said, "You're not getting it, though." He said there's a vast majority of these dogs go to law enforcement and different places and do special things, but they just don't do the whole thing. He said, when I say 10%, I'm talking about complete. And he said they'll go in front of a troop, and he said they don't miss nothing. No matter what kind of gunfire, no matter what goes on, that dog has stayed focused all the way through it. And he said about 10% is all we get. I'm thinking that's pretty good then when he explained it. I mean, we're not talking about 90% duds and 10% started. We're 10% finished hounds versus, or shepherds, if you will, military dogs. Versus, and I used all that in my mind to kind of, they kept up with percentages. Percentages were big. And he explained the German thing, and he said those folks done a phenomenal job over there raising dogs. Some of those bloodlines was really good. And he said, we actually send people over there that'll go through kennels and fool with dogs and look at character and nature and personality and buy this one and buy that one, and they're pretty good at it, and they bring them back with a higher percent of what they could actually put in a battlefield situation. But they're, they've got a lot more money in them. And I thought about that, and that kind of kicked me off looking at percentages in our dogs and what I'm doing, not so much what these guys are doing, but what I'm doing. Am I getting anywhere with this thing? Am I getting results out of it? And there's some dogs hard to get. That 10% dog is very hard to get, even in what we're doing, as far as 10% being good. And all, but and that's what he explained. He said,
"Are you saying that that even inside of your dogs, there would be? Would you say that? Are you saying that 70% of your dogs are making that or not?
Not at that top level, no. No.
Okay, so you're saying the percentage is probably pretty good to have 10% of your dogs just become top notch.
You've done real well. You've done real well.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And what I'm talking about there, I do. I'll speak for me. I don't let these gentlemen speak and tell you about their stuff, but that trail dog, that number one dog, that dog you rely on and depend on, just like the hooker female you're talking about over at Roy's. Those kinds hard to replace. And then you've got dogs that's coming on. They contribute. Maybe they don't trail a lick, but they're good finish dogs.
Yeah.
And you have dogs that you can work and keep and utilize, but, maybe there's an area that you'd turn them up a notch if you could, if it was possible.
Yeah.
But those few.
And those are valuable dogs, though.
Yeah. If you just look.
You have some of those.
Well, you ain't going to have feed many dogs if you're looking for them top ones. I mean, we're looking for them all the time, but if that's all we would have, well, certainly our feed bill would go down, or mine would.
So inside of a bear pack, maybe for somebody that's listening, and there's a lot of guys that listen to this that probably don't hunt with bear hounds, is that you need a lot of skills inside of a bear dog. And
I think so. Yeah.
Some dogs are going to have traits that are, you might have a real good trail dog, but maybe he's not as fast, but he can smell an old track and get it started. And then maybe you got some dogs that are super fast, but aren't able to grub out a really old track. And so you got this pack that's got a lot of dogs with a lot of different characteristics, and you're just trying to build a good pack. And then the phenomenal dog, even inside of really great bloodlines, is one that can just do it all. I mean, and that's a pretty phenomenal dog. Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the goal. Every one of us here, anybody listening at bear hunts, that's the goal. I don't care what color they're hunting or what they're into. That's the dog we're looking for. That's and many have them, and all, and it's good when we got them, and stuff, and all. But what? Then you got your standards for the rest of the group.
Yeah.
You deal with that one dog, you got to have it. You're striving to have it. Ain't always got it, but you want to have it. And then you're looking at the rest of your dogs that you know's not quite there. That maybe they don't do the jumping or the rigging or the hard running or whatever. But you there's a level, there's a standard there too that you want to.
Now, can you get some phenomenal dogs out of two, by your standards, average good dogs?
Absolutely.
It's possible. The blood, it's the blood and how the genes cross. And nobody, if anybody could know how that would turn out, you could turn them out like pancakes.
So it's like inside of this bloodline, there's this potential that these dogs have, and every now and then it's going to come out just right where you're going to have a phenomenal dog, but you may just have a good dog by your standards that you keep, but 2 generations from now, you might get another phenomenal one. Is that right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that can happen.
That's kind of the way it works, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Roy and I, we've talked. It seems like sometimes that you can't keep from breeding the better dogs to the better dogs. I mean, it's just you just can't keep from doing it. But out of some of the dogs that I've had, they've got good dogs in their ancestors. I'm not saying they wasn't good dogs, but they wasn't the dog that they produced. But you get up at the top level, and it seems like the best of the best, you will produce the best. It don't necessarily mean that.
Really? So you can take your just 2 phenomenal dogs, and it doesn't always make a great cross. No. Yeah.
I don't.
Where do you usually get the best cross? I mean, is there a trend?
Well, in my opinion, you don't actually know that, but when you cross and do get that, you just looked up and got it, in my opinion. And I've seen better dogs come out of mediocre dogs than I have out of number 1 dogs.
Is that right?
I think that's right.
Really?
I don't understand that.
And just because they've got that good blood in them, maybe they got the same blood as this number 1 dog is over here. Maybe they're litter mate to that number 1 dog over there. But this and over here will throw the best pups. And stuff. And you don't know that unless you breed it, but I've seen that.
Yeah. And your lifespan's not long enough to try all of it. I mean, that's why you use the best. You can't. I mean, it's just hard to keep from it. From using the best, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's where the top dog's going to come from.
Yeah.
Well, you just keep on trying to get the best, and breed them dogs and try to go on. But once you get so high to the best, and you've hunted your whole life like he has, I have, and Ronnie has too, and I've come to believe that I own the best that they could get.
Right.
I'm talking about my good ones. I don't know how they feel about their good ones or how Ronnie feels about his good ones.
Yeah.
But I just felt like that's as good as they get. They don't come no better.
Yeah.
But you keep trying to go up and go up, but they gets to a point when you ain't going up no more.
Yeah.
And you ain't got no way to go except downhill. Or hold your own one tether.
Yeah.
And that's pretty hard
You
to
can't
do.
hold. If you could hold your own.
Yeah.
By
that's
breeding two good dogs, if you could, out of every litter of pups, if you had the great dog, and you think, well, out of this litter of pups, I'll get one great dog. That doesn't happen. It don't where I'm at.
No, and then you may, that one great dog you get, it may come out of a litter you don't even, well, I'll just refer back to Powder. But now she turned out to be a good one.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know about the other two, but you don't know where it's going to come. But with breeding them dogs with the same pretty well bloodline and stuff, you can get one out of a mediocre just as good as you can get out of a good one.
But the thing that's for sure is that you've got to attach strongly into a line of dogs that is doing
You've
what
got
you
to
want
do that.
dogs to do.
That's what I believe.
Yeah, you got
And then
to do
you
that.
just gotta
I like my
good
chances.
dogs to good dogs.
I like my
Well,
chances.
I think it's possible to take, and I've even heard about them. I didn't exactly hunt the dog, but I've heard a good dog coming out of dogs that absolutely did not like bear, but this one dog did. But when you went trying to get pups out of that, they never got anything.
Yeah,
So,
maybe breeding on down the line.
Exactly. It doesn't,
Maybe
it doesn't
breeding
cut-
on down the line, you don't get no dogs.
That's why you
That's
want
it.
to. That's why you want a string of dogs behind them that has run bear and done good on bear.
Yeah,
And your percentage is going to be a lot better if
They'll
that's the
be
way
better.
you get them.
yeah, yeah. Well, maybe I should have started off here, but what makes a good bear dog? What are qualities that you're looking for in a bear dog? And I heard somebody say one time, and I liked it, and I don't know if it's true, but I liked what they said. They said that a bear dog, of all the animals that are bred, like racehorses, border collies, pigs, whatever we're breeding, you're trying to get a more unique and exhaustive list of traits out of a bear dog than anything. Again, I don't know if it's true, but I like the sound of it because you gotta have a dog with that can trail. It's got to have an incredible nose. It's got to be athletic. I mean, the toughest. And I'm putting words in you guys' mouth, but I kind of want to prove, say at this point, this dog's got to be extremely athletic to pursue the toughest big game animal in North America to tree. He's got to have grit. He can't be afraid of a bear. I mean, there's this list. He's got to have good feet. He's got to be able to run 30 miles in a day, potentially chasing a bear. But even inside of all those qualifications, there's these different strains have strengths and weaknesses. But Ira, to you, what do you want in a bear dog?
Well, you pretty well nailed it right there, I think. You want all the dog you get in your dogs, and you're just hoping one will pop out a little above average.
Yeah.
And, you want good personality. You want dogs that can get along with each other. I want dogs to get along with people. Yeah. You prefer fast starters if you can get them.
Right.
And, stamina is a huge thing, and certainly nose. That's very desirable. I don't care what part of the country you hunt in. It seems like every hunter I talk to, nose is highly respected in bear hunting. And certainly you got to have grit. You ain't going to do no good if you got a bunch of cowards, I don't care what else they do good. If they quit every time they get up one that wants to be a little ornery, well, you got to deal with that bear.
And so what happens is these dogs are chasing a bear, and one out of every 4 bears or 10 bears, some percentage of bears isn't going to run up a tree, but they're going to turn and want to fight the dogs or bluff the dogs. And a lot of dogs, that's where they get broken from being a bear dog. Am I right? I mean, they'll be afraid of a bear, and it can ruin them forever.
Exactly.
And
Absolutely.
so therein lies, I guess, the first test of a young dog is will he stay on a bear on the ground. And obviously you guys don't want dogs that are trying to you got to put enough pressure on the bear to make it run up a tree or make it stop, but not so much that the dog gets hurt. But so I just wanted to explain that because in coon hunting or in some of the running dog sports, that's not something that happens. And that seems to me to be the tipping point of these bear dogs is they've got to have just the right amount of grip. Too much, they'll get hurt. Not enough, and they don't make a bear dog.
If they ain't got enough sense to learn that a bear, when you hunt them, a bear can hurt them. And if they ain't going to stay back some and work a bear, if they're just going to go in and get hurt every time you turn them loose, then you don't even need that dog.
It's not something you can work with.
No,
Yeah.
because if it's going to stay tied up, if it's going to take it one day of hunting, and then you're going to leave it tied up for 6 weeks, and then the next time you take it a hunting, it's going to be tied up for another 6 weeks, and all your bear hunting's gone, and that dog ain't done you a bit of good. All you've done is spent money on it.
Yeah, yeah.
But you got to have enough nerve for them to learn to work a bear.
What's the word that you guys use to describe a gritty dog?
Well, in my opinion, one that'll get as close as a bear will let him, and bark at it good, and give when he has to, and take when he can. That'd be my part of it.
Well, what I wanted to hear you say was nervy. I hear you guys say that. Nervy. Yeah. I don't think that's a phrase that a lot of people use across the country. I like it. I think it's good. A nervy dog. I heard you say that, Mr. Roy. But gritty, nervy.
I want you to get this man on mic a little bit more over here. Interrogate him now.
What do you need me to say?
Whatever you want to. Just tire loose and let him have it.
There ain't a whole lot going on. I'm just listening. I'm learning. I'm still learning.
Well, I actually interrupted on when we were talking about the traits of the bear dog.
Pop some questions to that guy right there, son. He's from Nanahaley Gorge over there, and I'd say the best bear hunter in that country.
Yeah.
So he can answer some questions.
Yeah.
That's saying a mouthful right there.
That's putting you up. That's getting you up our big now.
How long have you been bear hunting, Ronnie?
Just since about the 80s, 1980, something like that.
Yeah. What do you see?
We had coon dogs. I've hunted all my life, had dogs all my life. And like I said, at that time, there wasn't any registered dogs in the country. If it was a brindle dog, it was a Plott. If it was red, it was a red bone. If it was a black and tan, it was a black and tan.
Yeah.
But now what it had in it, nobody know. But we had brindle dogs that we coon hunted. And that's kind of what got me started on Plotts, and it's pretty much what I've had.
Yeah. Did you now? Do you live in Georgia or North Carolina?
North Carolina.
Yeah. Okay. And did you get started with the kind of some of these same dogs as Mr. Roy had when you got in?
No, not exactly. No, I didn't. I didn't have the same dogs that Roy had. I guess we started breeding dogs. I can't exactly remember when.
Yeah.
But I guess the first time we bred any was probably when I bred Hooker to Smut.
Well, you just bred that to Rotel or whatever it was. Didn't you just breed her or something?
Rotel, I don't even remember.
That
Rotel.
one is that what's your name had?
Chris?
Yeah. They had that, what was that guy that had them dogs? Had some of his blood in it.
You talking about the Darlings?
Yeah, dogs. Didn't you just breed one of them to come up a hooker, didn't you?
We bred it to Walt Stansel's dog, Chris did. He
Yeah.
had Brandy. Brandy was out of Pison.
You just bred that before that to get Brandy, didn't you?
Yeah, Pison in the Darlings dog, and we got Brandy, and then he bred it,
Yeah.
And the Pison was the dog that I had at the time.
Here's a kind of a broad question about the general state of bear hunting in this part of the world. What do you think's happening inside of the sport, from a positive or a negative standpoint, that could jeopardize or help? Like, what's your perspective on the sport of bear hunting in the southern Appalachian Mountains?
Well, I'd say in the Appalachian Mountains that we would want those more so than a lot of other places.
Now, what I'm asking, I'm changing the subject totally. What about? I'm talking about in the sport as a whole, like even from a perspective of like young guys getting into it, or like lack of hunter recruitment, or problems inside the sport. Not even with dog. Yeah, I'm switching the topics without telling you. Just you guys with your experience and kind of thinking of it even from the sense of preservation of hound sports in this part of the world and even the country.
It's a hard sport, and young people, there's very few young people that likes it good enough. It's kind of like the dogs liking the bear. They don't like the sport good enough. And when Ira and Roy and we were younger, there wasn't as many bear. And I know we've walked every day for a week to find a bear track. And I think there's more bear now. I think they probably agree than what we grew up with. Mm-hmm. And that is one reason, and the perspective that they've got in it and what we dealt with at that time, I can't think of anybody that would do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got easier because there's more bear. And,
but that's made less people be interested in it, do you think?
It's just a hard sport. I mean, even if you've got bear, it's still a hard sport.
Right.
I mean, it's a demanding sport that it's just like you was talking about the dog. It's got to be athletic. You got to be physical. You got to have the desire to get there and to do this, which everybody's got a different part in bear hunting. Some people their main thing is shooting the bear, and some people they like to hear the race. And my part of it, I'd rather trail the bear. That's what I enjoy. So everybody's got different things, and a lot of the younger people, it's not what they want to do. It's they stand back and want you to take care of everything, and then we'll kill the bear. Yeah. And then we're bear hunters. Well, like I said, there's bear killers and there's bear hunters.
Yeah.
And there's not many young people right now that's involved in the sport.
Yeah.
Especially where we're at.
Do you think people would have said back when you guys were kids? I know you and Ira or Mr. Roy's a little bit older, but I mean, do you think people were saying that back when you were a kid? I mean, are there less hunters now than there were? Is there less recruitment now than there was?
There may be more. There's probably more hunting now than there was then. But I'd say if you took baiting in the GPSs and that kind of stuff away from them, maybe way less of them hunting.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. So you think there's more hunters?
Yeah, don't you?
I'd say there's more. I believe there's more people out there hunting.
Yeah,
but they're wanting to kill a bear.
I'd say they ain't more true hunters. There's probably less true hunters out there.
Yeah.
Than there was.
And when but by that you mean guys that have just dedicated their lives to bear hunting and hounds like y'all have.
Don't ask me why you want to do this. I mean, it's beyond me why you want to do it. I mean, it's just something.
What's hard about it, Ronnie?
What's hard?
Because people don't understand. I understand. People don't understand what the common. This is what blows my mind, and I go to bat for bear hunting with hounds every day of my life inside of what I do. I really do, and I don't even have bear dogs. People think that hunting with hounds is lazy. Mm-hmm. Tell them why it's not.
Let them take off after them.
Let them follow them. I've heard guys say, there's nothing to it. Said, you got a four-wheel drive truck, a radio, and a GPS. Said, what is there to it? And I said, you can quit your job. I said, we turn loose after a bear. You can take a picture of the bear. Every bear you take a picture of, I'll give you $1,000. Every one you don't take a picture of, you give me $1,000. I said, fair deal. Well, he said, I really don't care enough about taking a picture of a bear. No, it's everybody thinks it is a lazy sport. If they see somebody along the road, and there has to be somebody along the road, keep the dogs away from the road and all that. But they don't think about the miles that you've walked in order to get there.
Right.
And uphill, downhill, and these mountains, there's some rough places in them. And there's not a lot of people that likes that.
Right.
I mean, it's just a hard sport.
You could go to Ronnie's country and maybe turn loose on a bear. And maybe if you want to follow it, you won't see the road. You might see some roads behind gates, but you may not see a road that you can drive on till the race is done over with.
Yeah.
Done and over with. Done got dark on you or whatever, you done killed it or whatever,
Yeah.
and you still ain't seen no road.
Yeah, you can walk
Yeah.
all day and not see a road you drive a vehicle on.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you some of the toughest, best woodsmen I've ever met in all my travels have been bear hunters, bear hunters with hounds. I mean, the 365 day a year dedication to these dogs. You know, one of the first times I ever bear hunted with hounds was in West Virginia, and dogs got treed a mile away, and we were up on top of this road, and I was with some guys that did this every day, and they said, "Well, let's go to those dogs," and I said, "We're just going to go straight to them," and they looked at me like I was crazy, and they were like, "Well, what other way is there to get there?" And it blew my mind that we were just going to dive off in that hollow and go up the other side of the mountain to those dogs. I mean, you know, I was like, and I wasn't afraid of it. I loved it, but I was like, you're kidding. And then when I hunted with Mr. Roy in 2017, when we made that video, which as of yesterday broke 500,000 views on YouTube. Did you know that, Mr. Roy? 500,000 views. 500,000 people watched that video. It was, do you remember when me and Alvin walked to those dogs, one of the dogs that was off down in a valley? You've done it 1,000 times. You wouldn't even remember. But we took off in the dark, walking
to go
1.5 miles to
the street.
to
Yeah.
a dog.
Yeah.
And I mean, it just took, you guys do that kind of stuff all the time, retrieving dogs. And I mean, it just takes some toughness to do this.
But you'd done been on a pretty good journey that day.
Yeah, I had that day.
We'd done killed 2 bears, and that was going to get them 2 dogs off that tree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it takes a dedication of a lifetime to be a bear houndsman. I mean, it really does. And people, a lot of times people don't understand that at all. But it's just because they've never done it, you know. Ira, you said something to me earlier about what I like about you guys, and there's other people too that are this way. But inside of any kind of sport or hunting where there's the possibility to compare one to another, sometimes you get a lot of ego, and especially when it comes to dogs, and it's probably any kind of dogs. I mean, it probably, if we were bird dog men, and you know, there would be jealousy inside the bird dog world, whatever. But Ira, you described these guys real well, and then you were describing yourself too, as just being selfless with no agenda. Can you repeat what you told me earlier?
Well, I'll try to. I don't remember exactly how we got to where we was at a while ago, but it's in bear hunting. A fellow told us this one time, and I really agree with him. He said there's a lot of prestige in owning a good dog.
Yeah.
In the bear hunting world, you've done something. When you have that dog and he's truly good and everybody knows it, there's a lot of prestige in it. And prestige is just a spin off of pride. And we get that going, and it kind of, it creates, sometimes it's, just a little friction, I guess you might say, between other groups and maybe other people and all. And that's the comment I made about these guys. We're not, that's not our issue. We're good friends, and our common goals: bear hunt, have a good time, produce a decent dog, and as we can, and and there's no agenda. We're not, trying to. We don't have anything, that's under that.
And you're not in competition with each other.
No,
You guys are rooting for the
but now,
other guy.
I'm going to say that 90% of the bear hunters are, though.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's unreal.
Yeah.
I like what Ronnie said just a minute ago, and we've talked about this a lot, Clay, and it. And I want to make this point. If we don't make anything else today, I wanted to share this with where I'm at in it. I think the opportunity that I have, and I hope I can help these guys in this. They'd have to weigh in on that. But our breeding and what we're doing, I really like where we're at. The biggest deal today, you asked Ronnie a question a while ago, and maybe I didn't interpret it right. I don't know, but I got to thinking when you asked that question about hunting today, the changes of today. Well, the big deal today is the cost of things. Vet bills are outrageous. It used to be we had local vets that, or to get an old dog cut up or something, a little bit by a bear or hog, well, just a few bucks and you're out the door, good medicine, good time. Now, I mean, if you get a dog hurt, it's big money. I mean, we're talking about a lot of money. Yeah. We're talking about big money in our feed. And the thing is, you got to understand, all three of us sitting here, we'll average from 15, 20 dogs a piece. And you've seen mine, you've seen Roy's, and Ronnie's is just like them. Yeah. And about the same number. Now, what's really unique here is we trust each other. And Ronnie may raise a gang of pups. I don't have to. I may get a pup off of him. We may try some things. We may hear about something, we want to try. We got some ideas or something. I may try something, have a gang of pups. They get, they get pups. Right. Roy likewise takes good care of us. And that helps us a whole lot progress. And I think looking at hunters today, if I set in to breed and I'm just going to do it myself, my way, forget everybody else, they ain't enough of money and enough of time for me to do that. Yes. I'd have to have 50 head of dogs up there because you've got older dogs you don't want to get rid of. You got dogs that's still active. You got young dogs coming on, litters of pups coming. You even me and Roy was talking up there a while ago I was telling him about an opportunity I had. A friend of mine was going to loan me his female, and I don't need pups right now, but I'm afraid of maybe losing that opportunity if he loses that female. So sometimes we're making crosses when we don't even need pups. And it's really, I see good results of it. I really do.
So the relationship that you guys have is leveraging the whole, all of your success.
I think so. Right? I mean, it is mine. I'll speak to
on several occasions, like a litter of pups, if I get one or two, and he's 2 or 3, and Ronnie's 1 or 2 or whatever. You get to see it, and that's how I say same
you
litter.
You really know what happening
and they actually get a chance to do something, too. It ain't like they're put somewhere where they ain't tried or something.
I think a lot of people wouldn't understand this, too, about bear dog. I didn't understand this about bear dog breeders. People, you guys aren't in the market of selling pups. Right. You want to get a litter of pups, and you want every one of those dogs to go into the hands of hunters that are going to hunt them, that are going to give them a chance, and that also you could breed back to if it ends up being the phenomenal dog of the decade. And so I think that's fascinating. I do have Plott dogs, and I've had a couple of litters, and people that don't know anything are just like, well, oh, good, you're going to sell some pups. And I've automatically adopted this philosophy because I like it so much, what I see in these bear hunters. Is that, no, I didn't breed those dogs just to have a litter of pups. I want them to go to the right people, and I'm even willing to give them to the right people so that I can see what happens to them and breed back to them. And I mean, and if you do that for 60 years, or, Mr. Roy, you started hunting, your dad got dogs when you were 3, so 68 years.
Well, actually, that ain't right. He had dogs before I was born.
Okay.
And my grandpa
you do that for 6 decades. Then you have kept track of a lot of dogs, and you end, like Ronnie said, you do end up breeding the best of the best. I mean, most of the time when you can. And anyway, that's a good philosophy.
Well, I just wanted to share that before we got away from it. That what we're doing.
I'll tell you what
you go ahead how you want to, but
you take a good female, and you breed it. You're going to come out with something fairly decent out of a good female. Yeah. Now, I'd rather go that route as the other route. Is the number one good male. Bred to just one that ain't as good, say, or ain't too good. Just breed it to say one that ain't so good.
Yeah.
I don't like that at all.
Yeah.
But now I'm a believer in them females.
Believer in the females.
Yeah. Well, it's just like I've told people. I found a pup. It's really bred good. Where'd you find that? On Facebook. I don't think you've ever seen Roy, Ira, or me, or anybody with a pup on Facebook. When you're having to sell pups on Facebook, there's something wrong. Now, that's my opinion. I mean, and that would offend a lot of people because they got them on Facebook. There's people out there saying, if you raise a litter of pups, I want one, I want one, I want one. I mean, you don't have to look for somebody to get them. There's people that's already asked you about them. I want them. And I don't understand. Then they're buying them off Facebook. And pups are expensive if you go to buying pups.
Absolutely.
They are. They're expensive.
I feel like I could have sold pups and made some money, a lot of money selling pups. Mm-hmm. But you sell them to Tom, Dick, and Harry, whoever, and then they take them home with them. They never take them a hunting. And then word gets out that I tried one of them pups. It wasn't no count. It wasn't nothing. Maybe take you to hunting a time or two. And then the next thing you know, you're in the same category with all them out through yonder that they're selling pups, and everybody's saying you can't get a good pup off of him and stuff. But if you don't sell them, then you don't have to worry about that.
There's a low percentage. There's a low percentage of what we was talking about. Good dogs. Yeah. And if you don't hunt them, they're not good dogs.
Right.
That's right.
You might give a dog to somebody, and it may be the most phenomenal bear dog of the last 50 years, but you never know it because it wasn't hunted.
That's right. I mean,
you just take a dog that's put up, and say it's their number one dog, and you stand it up for 2 years, and then you take it to hunting. And it's fat and been fat for 2 years. And you see what it does for you the first time or two you take it to hunt.
For several times.
Yeah. I seen 2 dogs that was good dogs. Bell bear. Fact about it, they'd take them out midnight of a night, turn them on a big bear, and when it got daylight the next morning, they'd go pack them. And kill a bear, and they sold them dogs. Well, actually, Hoyt and that guy on that rock crusher, what's his name?
Duck
Boone bought them. They bought them, and they've been standing up for a couple of years. Well, they tried to hunt them. They wouldn't do nothing. They wouldn't even get out of your sight. They wouldn't even leave on a bear track or do nothing. So they actually give them to Jesse down on the coast. And we was going down there a whole lot of hunting and training down there. And Jesse just keep taking them dogs. They was that proud. And got a little weight off of them. And finally, they started going. And hunting, and I've seen them actually stay on a bear 18 hours down there. This is after they wasn't doing nothing. And when the bear laid down, the dogs laid down. Bark, bark, bark. Bear get up and move with it, and lay right down with it in them ditch lines down there in them canals. The only way you got them off of that bear was catch them off of it. And so, you know, the hunting part goes a long way with it.
Yeah.
And the hunter that knows more than a dog does is the ones that'll make the best dogs, too. Just for instance, if you take somebody that's a hunter, hunted all their life, and they make every excuse in the world for that dog. It was at the tree. I had it on this beeper thing, and it was right there at the tree. And then you get to the tree, kill a dog ain't there. Wonder why he left that tree. If you keep telling yourself that, you ain't gonna never have nothing. I mean,
be honest with
when you start lying to yourself and telling your own self that and trying to get other people to back it up, you ain't gonna have nothing. Which I hunt a lot of dogs. I know it ain't as good as maybe a dog ought to be. But then I hunt some. It's probably as good as anybody hunts. But you got to know what the dog is and what it does. Yeah. And making excuses up for them, in my opinion, ain't right.
Yeah.
I mean, I ain't saying mine can't mess up.
Yeah.
But if they mess up, I just say they messed up, and I get them, and I'm go on about it. But now, if you start saying they didn't do this or they didn't do that when you know good and well they did, you ain't gonna have nothing. What do you think about that?
Well, that's right. I mean, I like the thought you had there. You got to be smarter than your dog. I got to think about that, Roy, when you said that. How many times you boys? I know the answer before I ask this. Dogs taught me a whole lot about hunting.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way you learn.
I didn't. I mean, men has helped me a lot in breeding and opportunity and place, but the journey, the dogs showed me a whole lot more.
Leading them dogs through the woods, they've showed me more than anybody
man,
could have ever learned me.
Then,
Absolutely.
if you learn by doing that,
Right.
then you're doing good.
You've learned.
But if you can't learn by doing that,
Mm-hmm.
then you ain't gonna never get that.
And it is. I understand where a lot of people are. Kind of have to have a little sympathy for them. It's hard to feed an old dog and like it, and that's something going to blow out on you. You know, you'll want to hunt for an excuse, but you can't. You have to set. You have to come to reality in that thing somewhere that it just didn't make it. It ain't good, or it's met the wrong bar, or whatever. And you know, I mean, I get where people's at sometimes, but you know, to really be good at it, you know, I feel like, you know. You just got to be real with what it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they just something said about just being honest and straight and real about it. And, you know, again, I mean, if it hadn't been for a few old dogs through the years, I still don't know a whole lot about it, but I sure wouldn't know much about it. They'll teach you how to bear hunt.
And they're all different, though.
Yeah, in their own way. They contribute
just
in
like
different
people.
ways.
They're all different. They can all learn you different things, and you've got to learn to read them and them read you.
And you guys give a lot of grace to dogs, too, though, don't you? I mean, you're not just keeping perfect dogs.
No.
Well, I probably keep more imperfect dogs than Ira and Ronnie does.
Really,
probably.
you think so?
Yeah, but
I don't know, Roy, if I'd say that. I don't think you do. I tell you, you've helped me a whole lot. I told somebody this the other day. Today, I was talking to Justin Gurley today, and I told him this. You helped me a whole lot with being patient that first year with dogs. I had actually was getting rid of some dogs that at a year old that you know, and in that first year that just for slipping up one time. You know,
but they ain't never made one.
Well, you helped me with that.
They
You got me
never
back
made-
down a little bit on that.
They ain't never made the best dog in the world that can't mess up.
Oh, no,
it ain't out there.
I don't care which one it is. The best you ever had at one day.
Many
That
times.
thing messed up one day. I don't know
You
why
fool
it
with
got
it.
over there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't-
But
I
ain't
mean,
no need to trying to lie about it and say it done this or it done that. The best thing hit messed up. It didn't do right, but I know what it does do.
Yeah.
And that don't bother me a bit. I just catch it.
What'd
and
you
I'm-
say? You told me you said they've all got something wrong with them, but some of them have enough to make up for it. How did you say that?
Well, I just say myself that they ain't never made a dog that couldn't mess up.
Yeah.
But they some of them so good they can mess up, and I've got one I own right now that they can mess up, but they still a keeper and a good.
They do enough right. You had a beautiful little phrase you said to me earlier. You said some of them will mess up, but they do enough right that it makes up for the messing up.
That's
oh,
right.
yeah, they're
mean,
good.
you know what I mean?
The good outweighs the bad.
Yeah, yeah.
I've got that one dog over there right now. Bruno is as good a dog as anybody at bear hunts could own.
Yeah,
But now, can he mess up? He can.
yeah.
But now, buddy, if he don't mess up,
He's got it going on, don't he?
he's got her going on.
I've got some. If they don't mess up, they're going to do good. But they ain't went without messing up yet.
Ronnie said something the other day, Clay, I really like, and I ain't forgot it. I'll share it with you, and this is it in a nutshell. There's dogs out there that'll help you, and there's dogs out there that you've got to help. Now, you can think about that one. That's a pretty deep thought. I really
Yeah.
like that.
Well-
a good dog will do a whole lot more helping you than you have to help it. And some of these dogs, if we're not careful, they'll participate and they'll work, but you got to get them in the right place all the time. You find yourself kind of working them instead of them darn good ones. They just flat out help you.
Yeah.
That's just the
Kenny,
bottom line.
Kenny and Bart,
Yeah.
you know them. Mm-hmm. Well, Bart would keep you.
Bart's a dog.
He'll keep you till you can go back to that bear track and do what you need to. Where some dogs might lose it and you don't know where the bear track is. Bart ain't going to do that.
Right.
He might not go nowhere, but if you have to go help him,
He's your cold trailing dog, and what you're saying, he's not super fast, but he's
well,
not going to
them
lose that
bitches will
track.
jump bears all the time in front of him.
Yeah.
But if you need to go to a bear track, and he'll bark. So if it gets bogged down and you're in feed ground or whatever and you want to go help him, you can go help him because you know you're going to the bear track. If he's barking, you know you're going to the bear track.
Right.
And if you can't do that, that happened to us down on the coast.
Yeah.
That happened to us down on the coast, the last bear that we couldn't run. We could have jumped that bear. But them dogs wouldn't stay on the scent till we know where to go to try to follow her up with it. And if we'd had Barter Hooker down there, we'd have known where to go to follow her up on it.
Well, we was beat up this year on the coast bad. We didn't really have a lot down there to trail with.
No, we didn't. But
Tootie was hurt. I got her hurt over there with you, and Hooker was out, and Bart, he was. I mean, we were just, we're kind of winging it with,
Yeah, and we done all right.
I think we caught 7 in a week.
But we lost one good bear.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have Bart and Hooker. And if we'd have had them, I was just about bet you that bear would have been dead there. But we didn't have them.
I tell you.
Now get back on Nana Haley over here.
What'd you call him?
Nana Haley. Me and Ronnie, I went over and hunted a little bit with him. I ain't hunted a big lot with him. But I had to go every year and hunt a few days with him, and I ain't done that in a while. I ain't able to. And we would run a bear over there, and we killed a few. But we run some that got in the bear sanctuary, and what miserable times we spent over there. 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning to trying to gather up dogs and going to sleep. And one morning we woke up and we was sitting in the middle of the road in that bear sanctuary. Both of us asleep in the truck.
I'll be darned. That's tough.
Yeah, we put in some long nights. When Roy come, it was just about not from daylight till dark. It was just from the time he come till he left, we just about up.
Yeah. Ronnie, can you think of a real good story about either of these guys that you could tell?
Oh, I can think of things about both of them. I mean,
I know one good one he can tell. It wasn't. It was the bear race was ended. He might can tell the bear race. I don't know, but we was shot so bad that neither one of us wasn't able to drive, and we got Bud to drive us.
Yeah, we'd run bear for 2 days, and we had one get in the bear sanctuary, and so we started that evening. We was going to go over and try to get him out of the bear sanctuary, and I said, we'll get Bud to take us, Roy. What do we need Bud to take us for? I said, Roy, we'll not be asleep. We'll not be awake in 10 minutes. I said, we get set down. Well, I'm all right. I said, all right. Anyway, I got Bud. I said, Bud, drive us over there. All right. We had a tracking box, and I guess we got out and tracked. I don't even remember. Bud said he drove us everywhere over there and said we wouldn't even get out and track. Said we'd get out and just. He said he didn't know whether we had a box on or not. He said, I can't get it. He said we get back in and go sleep. And that's about right, I guess.
I don't much more than remember leaving over there. That's about all I remember of it, just leaving the house over there. We was asleep. I was asleep before we ever got to the lake down there, I think.
Oh, you was. You was asleep as soon as you got in there, but you was all right then. But I thought when we sat down, you'll be gone. And we got him. We got him in a day or two.
Ronnie, what's the best dog that you've ever owned? Can you think of one that was for sure the best dog? I mean, when 3 or 4 months ago, I talked to Ira, and we did a legendary bear hound story on Harvey. And just right off the bat, he said, he had a couple of dogs, but that was one that came to mind. Do you have a dog that just?
I've had some dogs that I've liked. I mean, I don't know. I've had some dogs that I don't know.
Yeah, he could go with June, or he could go with
Ozen,
or he could go with Hooker
or Squaw or Luke or.
What do you name your dogs like on registry? I mean, if you may not want to tell me that.
No, well,
is it?
It's a lot. Me and Roy got to breeding dogs, and He said, "Why don't you just put that Bateman's Laurel Mountain?" I said, "Well, it don't make no difference." I said, "It's just as long as they're registered, it don't make any difference what the name is." And so I started using Bateman's Laurel Mountain, whatever.
Okay.
So it's Laurel Mountain. Most of it would be Laurel Mountain. Well, we've crossed some and everything, and I didn't have Laurel Mountain when it started, but I'll say the majority of it's Laurel Mountain.
Well, that a lot got hooked.
Okay, well, that helps me. So, Laurel Mountain, what dogs did you say? Luke? Hooker?
That's now.
Yeah.
But now some of them dogs, what was that one bitch you had you liked so good? June?
Squaw.
Squaw. A long time ago?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and them dogs, and Pawson, and them dogs didn't have Laurel Mountain in front of them.
No.
Okay. Ira, what are your dogs?
Jones. We just stuck with the
Just
family
Jones.
name, just Jones Harvey
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But he needs to put some kind of mountain to it, don't he?
Yeah.
Or Jones, Barker's Creek Jones or something. Put a big title out there for a big bear hunter when you're on.
I don't know about that. I don't know about all that. It's
But he's had several dogs. He's got that Luke dog right now that he could do on, and he's got that other one.
He's got Luke and Lash,
Lash.
but they're like me. They got old and the senile, and they're
It don't matter.
Good dogs. They get old fast.
Yeah, they do.
They get old fast. I mean, and it's just like going hunting without your buddy.
Yeah.
It's you miss them.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's unreal how you miss them you trail with.
You depend on.
I mean, the ones you actually trail with, you miss them bad, buddy. And I went through a whole lot of them, and I feel like I've had some pretty good ones. But it still ain't easy. It ain't easy when you lose one.
No.
And like losing Powder, as young as she was,
That'll break you hard.
yeah, it breaks you hard.
It's hard to get those real good trail dogs, even out of a real good line. Is
It
that
is,
right?
it is.
And by trail dogs, how would you describe a trail dog, Ronnie?
A lot of heart and determination.
Yeah.
I mean, they got to like a bear first thing, but a trail dog, he's got to have the heart and determination to stay there when everything else leaves and hunt for it and find it, make it happen.
And the trail dog you're using to start a track. So you've got a rig strike or you found a track on the bank of the ditch, and it's the first dog you're turning out to try to get the track lined out.
That's right.
Yeah.
And he's got to not quit. He's got to keep on long, just keep on and on. And he may get fouled up and he may get bogged down and stuff, but you've got to just keep it getting them past that till.
I've turned them loose in snow, and there was no bear track there. But they was barking, and I knew it was a bear. They could smell it under that snow. And you turn them loose. I mean, they'd jump the bear. They'd work at it till they jumped it. You couldn't even see the track.
Wow.
I've seen that too.
Wow. Have you got a good trail dog right now, Ira?
I'm using Tootie right now. She ain't the best one I ever had, but she's probably the best one I got right now.
Yeah.
And
He lost one he trailed something with too.
I lost
this year.
two this year. It's kind of difficult to lose, but you lose them, They're going to go and all.
Yeah.
But-
What dog are you trailing with, Mr. Roy?
I'm still trailing with Bart and Hooker and Witch and Magic and Annie.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Those are some of the dogs that are in our video.
Yeah, actually, right now, I'm in trailing. I'm in decent shape on trailing.
Yeah.
The Annie's the bitch that you run around the road that wasn't in the race of that bear that we killed, and you was running around the road, and I said, I don't know what she's running.
And she had the bear.
And then you seen the bear, and lost that GPS and everything, and
I knew he'd bring that up.
He'll do that.
So we had to get in hot pursuit there, but we did find the GPS, didn't we?
Yeah. We did. Yeah. That dog was just a
she's
pup
just
back
a pup.
then.
And-
Yeah, because we thought maybe she was running off game or something.
I said she could be running anything, but it turned out it was a bear.
Yeah.
And she done that in Canada. And actually, she done that in Canada, and here she come out and run it over top of Ryan, and Ryan killed it. And she was just a puppy then, but it turned out, I don't know if it was a moose or a bear, but it turned out it was a bear.
Well, Ira, I know there is 1,000 different directions we could have gone on this deal. Is there anything you would like to say that we didn't talk about?
Well, I don't know. We've talked about a whole lot, haven't we?
We have.
It's been a
ground.
good journey. I'll sure say that. I've had a good time with it and made a whole lot of friends. I really have. Found very unique people, hard-hunted, dedicated people, and I had the privilege to spend a lot of time with a lot of these boys, these two men here, and a lot of others. And I've had a good time. I really have. I'll just tell you, I've been blessed. That's just what you can say about it. But I enjoy it. Enjoy talking about it. Enjoy doing it. Enjoy looking at papers, figuring what's going to happen tomorrow. Every part of it. I like it.
Yeah. Well, walking out here today with you and Mr. Roy through your dogs, we're in just a beautiful place, the Smoky Mountains here. I mean, I value these, just what you guys represent and the lifestyle that y'all have lived, and these dogs are special. I mean, some people might just walk out there and see a bunch of dark-colored hounds tied up and not think much about it. But I think I just value what you guys are doing and how you've dedicated yourself to this. And it's a craft. I think maybe that's what draws me to guys like y'all that have dedicated your life to this very specific thing, is that it's a craft. And you don't just get it overnight. You don't just understand it in 2 years of doing it. And all you guys have so much history from your fathers and grandfathers, and that's pretty unique in our culture. And that's something that I think is worth preserving. That and that's neat. But
It's definitely a heritage. I believe that, and I believe it's an Appalachian thing. I got a lot of friends up north, different places to hunt in Wisconsin and all, and it isn't part of the Appalachians, but it down here, it's definitely a part of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's where earlier, we was talking about, we kind of looked up to hunters. They've been some very successful men walk these old mountains. They really have hunted hard.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, you want to go hunting, and you want to kill bears, run bears, and have races, but it's just fun to be out in the woods hunting with your friends and the ones that's really close to you and stuff.
Yeah.
And make a lot of friends. Now, you'll make a few enemies when kill season's open. Training season, everybody's your friend. And actually,
that's true.
Actually, in kill season, you're actually better off if you're talking to another bear hunter and you're doing it good today. We run one, it got away or something like that. The more you do that, the more friendly they are. If you see them every day, and I got one today, or I got one tomorrow, and the next day I got one, then they don't care so much about talking to you so good, do you? Some of them don't. It changes the tune of some of them, don't it?
Yeah.
But going to hunting and having a good time and being with your friends and stuff means a lot.
Yeah.
Now, if you can add a bear race into that deal, it makes it even better.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Ronnie, is there anything you'd like to say that we hadn't talked about?
Well, the only thing about it is, I'm like I've been blessed, but one of these days we'll all get too old to run them dogs and everything. But I'm thankful for the friends of God. I can sit on the porch and we can talk about just things like this, and it's enjoyable just to talk about what it has.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's a big part of it just to have friends you can talk about it with, and people that kind of sees it the way you do. Like I said, everybody doesn't see this the same way.
Yeah.
So we do. We pretty much see it the same way. I'm not saying we agree on everything, but pretty much we agree on it.
Yeah.
Can you put a PS on that?
You bet.
Well, I'd like for you to get Gerald right there in that seat and let him put one of his headsets on. Let Ira keep his headset on.
Yep.
And let you talk to him. If Ira needs to help him a little bit, he can encourage him and just get a little bit out of him.
Let's do that. Absolutely.
If we catch him, you get him, Ronnie, or you'll make it. Run in there and tell him come in here.
Yeah.
Well,
what would the value of all this be if you just had all these dogs out here and you didn't have these guys and your dad? I think we gain, even though, I mean, we're hunters and we're wanting good dogs and we're wanting to kill bears and run bears. Really, a lot of the value of this comes from friendships, doesn't it?
It's right. That's right with me for sure. Because if I had the best dogs in the world and I hunted by myself and didn't have nobody to go hunting, to cut up and carry on and have a good time with,
Right.
I don't know how much I'd be into this thing.
Right. Yeah. Mr. Roy, go ahead and put that on, and let's ask Mr. Gerald what you think. This is Mr. Gerald Jones. He's soon to be 80 years old, and this is Ira Jones' father. Okay.
Can you hear me, Gerald?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All righty.
Okay.
We'll get on with this thing in this show.
Yeah.
And we're wanting you to tell him over there when you first started and who you buddied up with, that guy that had them, or your daddy did. Who was that guy that had them dogs that Thomas got some off of him? Thomas Ripebone.
Max Stewart.
Max Stewart.
Oh, yeah,
Max Stewart.
Yeah.
And just tell him some of the stuff. He'll ask you a question or two and just tell him some of that stuff there.
Well, I'll tell him if I'm hearing good enough, yeah.
Well,
Yeah. Go ahead. How did you get started in bear hunting?
Well, I first time I went bear hunting in my life, I was 12 years old. I went with my daddy and a couple, 3 more of these old timers around here, and that was the first time I went a bear hunting. But we've always, just a small kid, my daddy always kept dogs, and we've had Plott dogs all the way up, which had other kind too. But we didn't have none registered back in, that's back in the 40s and stuff. And there wasn't registered dogs, but we've had Plott dogs as long as I can remember.
He's wanting you to talk a little bit about hunting with your dad and how hard it was to find a bear track and how much you had to do at that time, Gerald.
Well, back when the first, when I growing up and first got into it, as for I had any TVs, I mean these walkie-talkie, and it finally come out with half a watt, and you could holler as far as you could talk.
Yeah.
It didn't help you much.
Yeah.
And, it was tough back in them days, and didn't have no tracking stuff, nothing, And but you just had to get on high ground and try
Listen
to stay
for
in
your
hearing
dogs.
of the dogs.
Yeah.
I thought it was it was something else but the way I got in with Plott, the way we got in with them, me and my uncle, I went over with him at Herbert's when before 16-year-old, back in, I guess, around 54 or something, 55. I wasn't 16. I went over to look at a horse. He's wanting. He heard that Herbert had a horse sale, and went over and looked at it. And Herbert had 17 grown dogs there. And he hadn't tied up, and they was red brindle, gray brindle, and the brown brindle, and the black brindle. He hadn't all tied up. And I declared that was the best looking pack of dogs I ever seen. And I always had them on my mind someday we'd go back over there. And well, it was a few years after that. It was a few years. I would got wanting a Plott dog, and I told my daddy, I said, let's go to Plotts. I said, over to Herbert's. I said, at one time over, Claude was over there. It was my uncle. I said, that's the best looking bunch of dogs I've ever seen. And we did, and that's when we got the old Sam dog. We bought him off of Herbert, and he that was on probably about 63, wasn't it, son? Something.
Yeah, that's right.
I think it was.
That's what the papers say,
in
yeah.
63. And right there, how I come into that stock right there. And then my daddy was working down in States and he at one of them steam plants, and he'd hear talking something, and they told him about Tom White having some pups, and he might get one. And Daddy went out by there and met him, and he did. He got a bitch. That's where the Sioux bitch come in at. And she was out of. She went back to Ferguson's. He got that bunch off of Ferguson.
Tell him,
she went
Gerald,
back.
tell him how hard it was to find a bear track back in them days.
Well, you hunted for days.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how hard it was to find a bear. And I mean, you hook up, you find one. Just about it.
Yeah.
And then when you turned on it, I mean, like I say, if they didn't stop it in your hearing, you just had to get on high ground,
Listen for
and
'em.
following, and all the times we'd boozing and be out way after dark, way in the night, and you'd be walking, and you'd hearing somebody's, either bay the tree one, I mean, you couldn't track. I mean, didn't have no tracking stuff, and it was rough. You really had to like it. I just
really had to like it. Yeah.
to do it. I mean, the old timers had it rough. Most of them, the way they hunted, a pretty good crowd, and they'd send their men out in these gaps, top of the mountain, and they'd go back there and sit all day,
waiting for the bear race to come through.
The dogs and the bear to come through,
Okay.
They'd actually kill the bear. Some of them in them getting them gaps would actually, but they'd tie your dogs up, or at home they would. They'd tie your dogs up, and they'd have your bear and dogs and take care of them. But now they'd go get in them gaps of the mountain and sit all day, take their dinner and everything with them.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Waiting for the bear.
That's the way they hunted, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Huh. I'll be darned.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mr. Gerald. That was really good.
Yeah, I mean, they just get scattered out, and nobody knowed what done. They stayed to dark.
They'd shoot 3 times signal shots, wouldn't they?
Huh?
They'd shoot signal shots like 3 times, and they'd count like to 10 between each shot.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And
when
shoot signal
if
shots.
somebody killed it, needed help, they'd shoot 2 times, bang bang, and then they'd wait a few minutes, and shoot again, bang bang, real fast, Yeah.
Had something.
Bar mate.
They wouldn't
Bear
be
meat.
many hunters today if they had to do that, would they, Gerald?
Huh?
They wouldn't be a lot of hunters today if they had to do that,
Oh,
would
Lord, it wouldn't be none of them. No.
Yeah. Oh, man.
This day and time is, back in, like I say, you had to like it to be out there.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for coming, or for me coming, letting me come.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I always end the podcast the same way. I say, keep the wild places wild, because that's where the bears live.
Hey, everybody, listen up. I got mega huge news. Meat Eater Live is heading back out on the road. That's right. Join me and the crew. Clay Newcomb, Cal, Yanni, Spencer's going to be there. Phil the engineer's going to be there. Meat Eater Live headed back out. Now, when you get every ticket, okay, every ticket you buy, you get a signed copy of our new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook. This tour is celebrating the release of the book. Buy a ticket, get a signed copy, Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire, which I'll point out is a $38 value. Here's where we're going to go. April 23rd, the Mesa Arts Center in Mesa, Arizona. April 24, the Balboa Theater in San Diego. April 25, the Grove in Anaheim, California. April 27, the Crest Theater in Sacramento. April 29, the Union in Salt Lake City. April 30, the Egyptian in Boise. May 1, the Wilma Theater in Missoula. May 2, the Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane, Washington. May 4, Revolution Hall in Portland, Oregon. And May 5, the last day of the tour, Pantages Theater in Tacoma, Washington. For tickets and more information, visit the events page at themeateater.com. Hope to see you at the show.